Versatile Mage. Chapter 36. Send me a WeChat location. Not yet, Mo Fan replied. I'll have to resign myself to my fate. If my judgment is really that bad, then having who I thought to be the reliable Mrs. Tang Yu help me with this problem. I get whatever I deserve. Your pendant is also a Stardust magic tool, Mrs. Tang Yu finally said. Mo Fan listened sincerely. However, it is different from the Stardust magic tool we usually see. It is a growth-type Stardust magic tool, Mrs. Tang Yu said with a severe gaze. Growth-type Stardust magic tool. Mo Fan had never heard of this concept before. If you were to talk about embedding an attribute via a gem, he would understand that theory, as there was plenty of it in games. This Stardust magic tool is an absolute gem under the heavens. This is due to it originally having the same function as other Stardust magic tools, but it is also capable of growing. It is able to absorb the magical energy from other Stardust magic tools in order to boost its own capabilities. After absorbing enough magical energies from other Stardust magic tools, it is able to raise its spiritual level. Mrs. Tang Yu earnestly explained to Mo Fan. As Mo Fan heard this, he felt great waves rolling within his heart. A Stardust magic tool that is capable of growing. An extremely average Stardust magic tool was considered a treasure by both the school and ancient families. Even an incomparably preeminent student would need to take turns to use it, showing just how precious and rare they were. A spirit-grade Stardust magic tool possessed twice the efficiency of a common-grade Stardust magic tool. Mu Bai had said that within all of Bo City, one could find very few of them. One of the known ones was in Mu Ningshui's possession. One wouldn't need to guess to know that it was most likely a treasure of the Mu family. The little Loach pendant actually possessed the ability to grow itself into a treasure of that level. Mo Fan had roughly guessed that this might be an incredible item, but he never thought it would be incredible to that extent. Sheet. With this kind of treasure, even a person with principles would feel jealous enough to kill for it. According to what people said, it was common for magicians to fight over a treasure. At the moment, he was only a small magician. If Mrs. Tang Yu really were to have a change of heart, then tomorrow's news really would read, a certain genius from Tianlan Magic High jumped off the roof due to the pressure from school. More on page 2. Mrs. Tang Yu, I feel like a small magician such as myself is unable to manage something so precious. I'll give it to you so you can research it. Mo Fan wasn't a fool, thus, he immediately said this sincerely. Even if Mrs. Tang Yu appeared to be a very righteous person, a person's character was very hard to predict. Mo Fan wasn't childish enough to think that Mrs. Tang Yu wasn't a bad person just because she was pretty. Puff. Tang Yu immediately started to laugh at what Mo Fan had said. The lovely scene of her laughing was touchingly beautiful. Mo Fan's expression was blank. He didn't know what he did to make a beauty like Tang Yu laugh like that. Mo Fan, on the day of the annual examination, when you righteously slandered Mu Juoyan from that small family, I thought you were a firm and unyielding man. Just now, I was thinking about confiscating your particular treasure. After all, it is not something a small magician like you is able to manage. However, I never thought that the firm and unyielding you would hand it over. That really makes my impression of you take a 180-degree turn. Mrs. Tang Yu's laugh sounded as pleasant as peach blossoms in spring. Mo Fan awkwardly laughed. An unyielding character is only worth so much. A life is more important. When scolding Mu Juoyan, Mo Fan was well aware of the consequences. If one were to integrate themselves into this society, one couldn't be so naive and stupid. Whether it was the Science Society or the Magic Society, maturing early, what's so bad about that? Then, Mrs. Tang Yu, how do you plan on solving this? Mo Fan asked her. All right, I know you are very reluctant to part with it. It's good that you told me about this. If it was any other teacher, they really would pull something disadvantageous to you in order to stand above thousands of others. Tang Yu's smile faded as she spoke seriously. Mo Fan's eyes shone. It seemed like he had chosen the right person this time. This Mrs. Tang Yu really was different from the other magic teachers who seemed righteous, but was something else on the inside. First, you cannot tell anyone about it being a growth-type Stardust magic tool, eh? I reckon with your intelligence, you wouldn't tell anyone else anyway. Second, it's not because I'm not interested in your growth-type Stardust magic tool, but because the Stardust magic tool is somewhat special. It seems like it has a trace of an unbroken spiritual link with you, Mrs. Tang Yu told Mo Fan honestly. Wow, this thing was a binding equipment. Mo Fan really felt baffled. No wonder why every time he tried to remove the loach pendant, an indescribable resistance arose. Lastly, the growth-type Stardust magic tool needs to grow. It uses spirit essence and other Stardust magic tools as fuel. Currently, it is only a common grade Stardust magic tool. Despite the pendant being equipped with the ability to grow, whether it really will grow is hard to say. Or, the resources it requires to grow might be much larger than a spirit grade Stardust magic tool. In that sense, your inherited family treasure might be no different than a trash grade tool, Tang Yu said. Mo Fan nodded his head and thought for a moment before asking, Mrs. Tang Yu, what is spirit essence? At the moment a magical beast dies, its soul will leave its physical body. A soul leaving the body becomes a spirit after its life has ended. If the soul remains in the body after death, then it will emit a special spirit radiance. That type of soul after death would be 10 times more pure than a common soul, and is called a spirit essence. A spirit essence is an important material for refining a Stardust magic tool. As expected of a teacher, her easy explanation made Mo Fan want to write it down. Basically, if I wanted to make it grow, then the best way would be to collect spirit essence. Alright, I better hurry up and increase my strength so I can go kill some magical beasts and collect spirit essences. Mo Fan said enthusiastically. Tang Yu nodded, followed by saying, hurry and collect them. Remember to send me a WeChat location before you die. I will go to the magical beast's stomach to retrieve your skeleton and the growth magic tool. The corner of Mo Fan's mouth twitched. He didn't know how to reply to that. Give me the broken Stardust magic tool that was given to you by the school. I'll settle this matter for you. This is me helping you privately, so just see it as you owing me one, Mrs. Tang Yu said, not joking in the slightest. Thank you, Mrs. Tang Yu. If I can be of use in the future, don't hesitate to tell me. Mo Fan replied. Asking Mrs. Tang Yu for help was indeed not bad. The most headache-inducing problem had been solved by her. As long as I don't get expelled by the school, then I'm alright. Also, the little loach pendant obtaining the energy of the Stardust magic tool signifies that I'll be able to use it permanently. That was amazing. People like Mu Bai and Zhu Zhaoting would only be able to use the Stardust magic tool for a month, and even that Yuang, who was going to duel Mo Fan, would only be allowed to use his for half a year. Mo Fan himself would be able to use it non-stop for a whole year. His cultivation would surpass them by a whole street. He couldn't help but give the little loach pendant a kiss. Chapter end. Versatile Mage. Chapter 37 Experience outside of the city. I guess that after you've tasted the benefits the Stardust magic tool will bring you, you will helplessly want to go and collect the spiritual essences. When a quarter of your school time has ended, we will bring you outside of the city for 2 months of practical experience. When the time comes for you to meet a real magical beast, you will forget about the idea you have today, Mrs. Tang Yu said. Practical experience. Mo Fan had never heard of this before. Was this possibly the legendary high school military drill? Every magician needs to experience this day. We don't nurture magicians so they can stay home and live like princesses, nor is it for you to compete against one another. It is for you to stand off against magical beasts during crucial times. The practical experience is a significant test of the student's temperament, Mrs. Tang Yu explained. I will treat this seriously. No, Tang Yu said, The practical experience isn't an exam. I only wish for you and other students to calm yourselves when you encounter a problem and ponder how you're going to survive it, she said with earnest profundity. After Mrs. Tang Yu said this, she turned around to leave. When Mo Fan was about to ask for more details, he realized her curvy body had slowly merged with the area where the moonlight didn't shine. A heartbeat later, there were no more traces of Tang Yu. Mo Fan was able to see everything very clearly this time. She really merged with the darkness. Her entire being disappeared as though she had never been there. Mo Fan hastily jumped down from the dam and poked his head out from the railings of the roof. What shocked Mo Fan was that Mrs. Tang Yu had gone from the roof of the 8-floor tall school building to the ground, treading with slow and light footsteps toward the teacher's dormitory. The gloomy moonlight stretched her shadow out, making her look like a proud night fairy. As Mrs. Tang Yu entered the shadow of a messy tree, she suddenly disappeared once again from his line of sight, and he was no longer able to find this mysterious female teacher in the dreary night. Just what kind of skill was that? Out of all of the elements that Mo Fan knew of, only the wind element was able to use wind trail to move swiftly. That fact alone made Mo Fan think it was amazing, but Mrs. Tang Yu used magic that he didn't know anything about. It practically let her enter the shadows to move swiftly. That was just too cool. I wonder when I can learn this. Speaking of which, this Mrs. Tang Yu didn't seem normal. According to the rumors, one would have to reach intermediate level magician to awaken a second element. In other words, Mrs. Tang Yu was at least an intermediate level magician. No wonder Mrs. Tang Yu was able to surpass so many other qualified and older practical teachers. For most people, an intermediate level magician had already reached the peak heaven level. It seems like Mrs. Tang Yu is actually a very thick thigh. I will have to hold onto it tightly. Did you hear? After our quarter of cultivation time has ended, we will begin the magician's practical experience. What is the magician's practical experience? Basically, we're going to the areas outside of the city. No way, ever since I was a child, I've heard those areas have magical beasts that eat people. I'm not going. You have to go. This practical experience is related to our admittance to university. It is the equivalent of a very important subject. It's just practical experience. What is there to be afraid of? We're magicians. Even if we were to encounter a magical beast, we can just use ice spread to freeze it into an ice statue. However, I heard magical beasts are really strong. Didn't the magical beast teacher always stress about how we should never face a magical beast by ourselves? Just like what Mrs. Tang Yu said, after the end of their quarter of cultivation time, they immediately welcomed a cruel practical experience. If it went as planned, they would meet a genuine magical beast. There had always been a magical beast class, and for who knows how many years the teachers had been talking about them. However, the students had never met a genuine magical beast. Even if they secretly watched a video of them on the internet, there was no difference between that and watching a Godzilla movie. This time, the students would finally get to meet a genuine magical beast. As soon as the news spread, it could be said that the entire school began to discuss this matter. The practical experience began with the elite class. All of the students in the elite class were basically able to control 7 stars after the end of the annual examination. Currently, it had been more than half a year. Thus, every single one of them should be able to expertly control their elemental skill. The school would let the students who could grasp their magical skills participate in the practical experience. If a common person were to encounter a magical beast, they wouldn't have any ability to retaliate. Time passed by quickly. Mo Fan relied on his little loach pendant to cultivate his lightning and fire stars to more than 5 times their original levels. He was able to cast both lightning strike and fire burst skillfully. He was now able to practice fire burst openly in school, and thus the casting speed of his fire burst had gotten even faster. Roughly 3 seconds was enough for him to cast it. As for lightning strike, he would need about 4 seconds. Currently, Most of the students in the elite class would require 5 to 10 seconds to use a magic spell. Thus, Mo Fan was far above them in terms of spellcasting. The entire elite class had a total of 100 people. They would be divided into 5 groups with roughly 20 students in each. There would be a teacher with them, as well as 2 other military instructors. Every group had its own bus. Thus, the 5 school buses began to drive toward the outer areas of the city with groups of young magicians. The place they were going to this time had more or less been decided. They would be going to the Snowy Peak Mountain Station. The Snowy Peak Mountain was an important goods stronghold for the hunters of the Hunters Union and Bow City. The entire stronghold was constructed in the middle of a valley. Do you remember when I told you that the stations in Bow City's surroundings are the boundaries of the safe area? The areas outside of the stations may have a magical beast appearing. Thus, before you have the abilities to face off against a magical beast, make sure you never step out of the safe areas or else you'll become a pile of skeletons. The magical beast teacher, Zhang Jianguo, told them strongly. That's right, within the area of the station, we, the Hunters Union, the Magic Association, as well as other large ancient families, assign someone to patrol daily and set up warnings. There will definitely not be any magical beasts entering the residential areas of humans. However, the capabilities of us magicians are also limited. Thus, the only places we are able to protect are within the boundaries of the stations. We are powerless outside of the stations. After all, even if we have stronger magicians, we are unable to eradicate the magical beasts hiding under all the complicated and difficult terrains, the 3rd Hunter Group's captain, Luo Yunbo, stated. Luo Yunbo was a tanned and very handsome man. After the girls in the groups saw Captain Luo Yunbo, their eyes began to sparkle. It was like the girls were worshipping and infatuated with the handsome military instructor. Luo Yunbo was the military instructor guiding the team this time. The assistant military instructor was a woman named Pan Lijin. She was a tanned, capable, and vigorous type. There was a huge difference between her and the female magicians from the campus. Chapter End. Versatile Mage. Chapter 38. The Snowy Peak Mountain Station. As they sat on the bus, they passed through the wasteland on the outer regions of the city. In just a few moments, mountain forests appeared in everyone's sight. The mountain forest was very green, deep, and its vicinity was luxuriant, sturdy, and vigorous. Weeds were growing, and the distant mountain peak was uneven while the clouds were thick. Do you see it? This lonely and mighty mountain is the Snowy Peak Mountain, and also the border of Bow City. Bow City counts as a medium-sized city. At the frontline magic cities, empires, and large demonic cities, their safe borders wouldn't be called just a station, or even a small stronghold, said the assistant military instructor, Pan Lijin, whose hair was only the length of a forefinger. Speaking of which, since you guys regularly have contact with magical beasts, that means you must be intermediate-level magicians. Wang Sanpang asked. Intermediate. Pan Lijin swept her gaze across Wang Sanpang and ridiculed him. Why would intermediate-level magicians guide you little brats around? As Wang Sanpang heard this, he got upset and whispered, then you guys are just primary-level magicians, that's nothing to brag about. As Wang Sanpang said what everyone was thinking, the 2 military instructors began to laugh simultaneously. It was evident that they thought Wang Sanpang's words were far too childish. As the bus entered the mountain, they had been on the road for more than half a day. Mo Fan wasn't leisurely sitting around for more than half a day. He was maintaining his meditation at the very back of the bus. He and the bus were fated. When he had completed connecting 7 stars and lightning strike, he was also on the bus. This time, Mo Fan felt like his fire element had touched upon something. The little loach pendant was like a stardust magic tool. It allowed Mo Fan's cultivation time to hugely increase. It had been a year since the annual examination, and Mo Fan realized that not only had his stardust become tremendously bright, but the stars within the fire element stardust had gone through a huge change. In the past, The star's radiance would be occasionally bright and occasionally dark. Currently, the star's radiance could be said to be extremely steady. It was said that when the star's brilliance began to transform, their ability to conduct magic would also improve. A spell's effect and might would also follow this change and strengthen. He spent the entire second year of high school working on this improvement. I wonder what kind of might the next level of fire burst will possess. I can't wait. At last, they finally arrived at the Snowy Peak Mountain Station. Although they said it was a small stronghold, this place wasn't just some crude village. The stronghold station used the incomparably precipitous cliff as its sides. The cliffs were at least 100 meters high. You could only see the sky if you fully tilted your head backward. The cliffs on both sides formed a natural wall. Additionally, the front and the back of the valley road had two colossal stone doors locked down. The entire stronghold station was just like a small fort garrison within the valley. So this is the Snowy Peak Mountain stronghold. It is said that other than the high-leveled flying-type magical beasts, as well as those that have a climbing ability, this Snowy Peak Mountain fort garrison can obstruct the absolute majority of the evil creatures from entering the safety zone. Moreover, due to the Snowy Peak Mountain Station, we haven't had any frightening reports about people being hurt within the safety zone for many years. Zhang Jianguo walked out of the bus as he looked at the large protective stone doors. He couldn't help but feel deeply moved. Teacher, I heard that this protective stone door was made by Arbo City's construction master, Earth Element magician Zhang Yuheng. No magic beneath the intermediate level is capable of moving it. The young lady Bar Zhuman asked, being the good student she was. That's right, the stone door seems a bit old, but the truth is that its firmness is in no way inferior to steel. Zhang Jianguo walked in front, holding in his hands a flag for the third group. He looked like a tour guide taking the students on a walk around an ancient city. Not long after, the other four groups' buses arrived in succession. The 100 elite students of Tianlan Magic High stood together beneath the tall and sturdy stone door. On the two sides of the stone gate were two sentries. Among them was a battle mage who didn't wear his uniform. He was leisurely playing with the flame in his hands. The small flame was like an obedient pet, moving actively within his hands. Occasionally, it would float around his body. It seemed wonderfully graceful. As Mo Fan noticed this, he was amazed. From the way the man was playing with the fire, Mo Fan could tell he was far more skilled than himself. He began wondering how much stronger the plain-clothed battle mage's fire burst skill would be compared to his own. Hey, Boss Zhangkong, how come you're assigned to this post today? Luo Yunbo raised his head as he smiled toward the fire mage who was fiddling with flames. I have nothing to do. I heard there would be some high school girls coming here today, so I specifically came to check it out myself. The man called Zhangkong didn't hide his intentions as he smiled to himself. On the side, Zhuman pursed her brows. She could already feel that this magician called Zhangkong was checking her out. So handsome. Yeah, you simply can't compare the little brats from our school with him. He has such a manly aura to him. And he's also very honest. The few infatuated girls in the class could no longer maintain their calm and immediately began to chatter continuously. Little girl, don't crease your brow toward our boss Zhangkong. He is one of the rare experts here, said Vice Captain Panlijin in a tone that carried a slight note of adoration for Zhangkong. I've heard of the name Zhangkong. Isn't that the fire magician who slaughtered the most magical beasts in the Snowy Peak Mountain Station? Zhang Jianguo immediately raised his head and said loudly, it's an honor to meet you. He has only killed a few magical beasts. What's so impressive about that? Wang Sanpang said. It is indeed not impressive. When Deng Kai proposed the idea of having you students come here for practicals, I did reject it, the handsome mustachioed Zhangkong said. The warning from a year ago has passed. Currently, there won't be any problem. As a mage, you still need this practical no matter what. You can't just extend it because of a warning from a year ago, Zhang Jianguo said. I don't really mind as long as you don't let the students wander around. I don't want to see this fine and delicate beautiful girl being eaten by a one-eyed magic wolf, Zhang Kong said with a hearty laugh. Zhang Jianguo smiled awkwardly. The other person was a genuine expert. Even if he made a suggestive remark toward a woman, Zhang Jianguo, as a teacher, was unable to do anything. The warning from a year ago. Mo Fan had heard of this matter from his little aunt. However, as Mo Fan had spent most of his time within the ivory tower of the school, the dangerous matters that occurred in the outside world were unknown to him. Chapter End. Versatile Mage. Chapter 39 Chief Military Instructor, Zhang Kong. The entry and exit were clearly within the control of the man called Zhang Kong. As the 100 elite students exited the bus, they began entering the snowy peak mountain stronghold. The stronghold was very simple, with only a single main road. On the main road were many shops and vendors. It was virtually no different from the marketplace of a town. The only difference was that they didn't sell chicken, duck, or fish meat. Instead, they sold the necessities required for a mage's battles and cultivation. Come, top-rate magic boot equipment. Let me tell you, this is some good stuff. Do you know what the fastest magical beast is? That's right, it is made of the skin of a speed beast's hind legs, with the wind trail magic pattern. It also has a pure wind stone increasing its energy. If you were to run using this, you'd definitely cause the one-eyed magic wolf to stare helplessly. If you were to buy this, I'll give it to you at a discount, seeing how you and this treasure share interlinked fate. Second Baldy, stop bullshitting. How can this thing be called magic equipment? Any random Nike would be better than your pair. Bullshit. We lost 2 people killing a speed beast, and I was awarded the skin of the hind legs. It's definitely a genuine pair of magic boots equipment. Second Baldy immediately began arguing with the person who mocked him. Further up was a vendor selling magic stones of all colors. Magic stones were quite simple. They were produced when the elements, fire, wind, lightning, or earth, were dense, forming an extraordinary stone. Inhabiting these stones was energy similar to the magic powers within a magician's stardust. Although they couldn't be directly used by magicians, they could still be embedded into magic tools and magic equipment to supply them with constant energy. This knowledge had already been covered by the teacher during class, and Mo Fan had earnestly listened to it at the time. It was said that, on many occasions, purified magic stones could also be used as currency. The consumption rate of magic stones was colossal. In fact, it was the equivalent of a power source in the scientific world. Mo Fan originally thought mobiles, computers, and household appliances used electricity. After that lesson, he understood that the power plants here weren't some hydroelectric facilities or windmill networks, but instead used lightning magic stones. There was nothing he could do about it. The light element originating from Edison was something Mo Fan had to accept. Apart from that, the one who invented steam machines and helped the entire world enter the Industrial Revolution, was, in this world, a fire magician. The theory behind the steam machine was a fire magic diagram, and they used fire magic stones as the power source. That was why this world didn't have oil, hydroelectric power, or electricity. They relied on magic stones to survive. And where did magic stones come from? Naturally, they came from nature. The cruel part was that magical beasts also needed magic stones. The stones were their most important food and a vital source of energy for becoming stronger. Thus, when humans searched for, dug up, and gathered magic stones, their biggest obstacle wasn't nature but the magical beasts who also relied on them to survive. Magical beasts were instinctively hostile toward humans. Think about it, every piece of magical equipment within a city was simply food to a magical beast. Additionally, humans had always been their prey, which was why human magicians and magical beasts had never ceased battling each other. Perhaps this was the biggest difference between the original world and the current magical world. In the original world, humans held a governing position. If they wanted to sweep something away, They only needed to send a guided missile. However, in the world of magic, explosive weapons didn't exist, only magicians. Perhaps even heavy explosive weapons wouldn't achieve the goals, and magical beasts would end up occupying more territory. The majority of humans could only live in cities. A city needed the protection of magicians. This was also the reason why a magician's status was always higher than that of commoners. Not only did they possess mighty power, but they also carried a divine mission. Brother Fan, in the practicals this time, we must properly show ourselves off. I've heard the practical grades are directly related to our admission to university. They account for 20% of the total admission score. Zhang Xiaohou said to Mo Fan. Mo Fan nodded. Their homeroom teacher, Zhu Musheng, had already mentioned this matter. The practicals were basically part of the high school exams. The grades were set by the military. In other words, the military head of the practical exercise. The evaluation of the head military instructor would be either C or A. This would directly decide whether the student magicians ended up in a top-rate magic university or just a common one. The imperial institution that Muning Zhu was attending required students to achieve an A before they would even consider recruiting them. Mo Fan had no intention of staying in a small place like Bo City. Besides, higher-tier magic could only be learned in larger cities and universities. For this practical, he also wanted to retain a grade of A or higher. Only this way would he have the right to enter universities at the same level as the imperial institution. These military instructors have been bribed by the school. Even if you waste your time here for 2 months, they'll at least give you A, B or C. So there's no need to worry, Wang Sanpang said with a smile as he came over. That's right, it was the same in the previous sessions. Another student who knew the internal story nodded. That's about right. The school definitely hopes the military instructors give them a higher grade. Gather in the plaza. Gathering. After Luo Yunbo's loud shout, all the students quickly gathered in the central plaza of the Snowy Peak Mountain stronghold. The number of people was no small amount. There were 100 in total, all wearing the uniform of Tianlan Magic High. After the students lined up, they quickly attracted the attention of the magicians stationed around the stronghold. These veterans slowly gathered to surround the students, their faces showing sneers of amusement. Come and check this out, it's a new group of interns, ha ha ha. We can once again see the newbies make a fool of themselves, a man with a sharp, rat-like face said. Exactly, the time when interns are here is the liveliest in the stronghold. Guess which one of these interns will be so scared they pee their pants? A man who looked like a small hunter squad officer said, sticking his head out. I guess there'll be at least 30. Then the remaining 70 will be scared until they faint. The students stood in formation in the plaza, but they could clearly hear the voices of the stronghold veterans. Most of them looked like they took pleasure in others' misfortunes, making no effort to hide the disdain for the students. The 100 elite students were divided into 5 groups of 20. At the front stood 2 military instructors and 1 practical class teacher. Head military instructor. The head military instructor has come. Not long after, a group of battle mages wearing uniforms neatly walked to the front of the gathered students, their aura radiating prestige. Leading them was, surprisingly, the mustached uncle who had been playing with flames at the sentry post, Zhang Kong. Zhang Kong still had that superior air. As the head military instructor, his unkempt appearance somehow made him seem even more intimidating. Chapter End. Versatile Mage. Chapter 40 An Impossible Mission. Hello everyone, I am the chief military instructor of your practicals, Zhang Kong. You should consider yourselves lucky because you are the first group of examinees to come here since I've taken charge, the chief military instructor, Zhang Kong, said. The students stood with their backs straight. None of them dared to say a word. In the past, they had only interacted with teachers. The knowledge the teachers could impart was abundant, but it was only theories and data. Battle mages carried the remnant aura of killing magical beasts. For students who had never seen this aspect of the world, Even though Chief Military Instructor Zhang Kong seemed gentle, they were not rash. Don't worry, you are the first practical students I will be responsible for. In order for you to smoothly pass the practicals, which directly influence your high school examinations, I will give you all special treatment. Zhang Kong said loudly. Not being able to pass the practical examination, or getting a low score, would greatly influence the grades. Their fate could change drastically due to this assessment. I understand that you are all the most outstanding young magicians of Arbo City, and I also believe you possess the required strength to pass the practical examination. Thus, the practicals this time will be extremely easy, Zhang Kong said harmlessly. At this moment, Luo Yunbo and Pan Lijin frowned. Whenever he revealed this kind of smile, it was never a good thing. I just received a bounty, and the difficulty is the lowest level. There are 100 magicians from the school, right? How about this? If any squad, or individual among you, is able to complete this bounty, then you will pass the entire practical assessment and acquire grade A, Zhang Kong said. Before he could finish, an uproar erupted within the small stronghold. The ones most excited were naturally the 100 practical students. They had heard from their senior brothers and sisters about the practicals. All they usually needed to do was waste time at the station and avoid provoking the instructors, and they would basically pass. If you performed well, you could get a B, and an A wasn't too difficult either. However, they had never heard of something like clearing a bounty. Bounties were special missions undertaken by full-grown mage squads seeking high rewards. Within the plaza, even the hunters who had been at the station for a long time couldn't calm themselves. What kind of situation was this? Letting these students undertake a bounty mission? That was ridiculous. Even full-fledged mage hunting squads sometimes failed, and now these immature and inexperienced students were supposed to succeed. What if none of us can finish this mission? Zhu Zhaoting, who stood near the front, asked. Then no one will pass, Zhang Kong replied indifferently. All the students and teachers were shaken after hearing these words. Chief Military Instructor, you might as well fail us all. At this moment, Class Representative Zhuman stood up, unable to contain her anger. Yeah, there's no difference between that and failing us right now. Zhang Jianguo, Zhu Musheng, Tang Yu, and Chen Weiliang all looked exceedingly concerned. What was going on? Hadn't they already bribed him? Why was Zhang Kong not playing according to the rules? A bounty? Was this really something students could do? How is it inappropriate? Why don't you go and find your school director, Deng Kai? Either way, it won't be easy for you to receive high grades from me. Since Tianlan Magic High is the best public high school in Bo City, you shouldn't have brought a group of wastes here for practicals. Besides, if all you're planning to do is waste your time, then you might as well go back to school and read magic books. What's the use of bribery? It would be better if that didn't happen. That way, you wouldn't come to a station where danger lurks everywhere. Zhang Kong's tone suddenly turned serious. Just moments ago, he had appeared gentle. In a flash, he turned into a fiend. Brought a group of wastes for practicals. Those words struck the students deeply. Chief Military Instructor, the examination you've set is a bit too much. From what I know, even the easiest bounty would require a squad that has been honing their skills in the outside world for at least 3 to 5 years to complete successfully, Teacher Zhang Jianguo said with little confidence. You have 100 people. If you can't even finish a bounty mission, then the wastes you mediocre teachers have raised will leave me very disappointed. Are they even elite students? Chief Military Instructor Zhang Kong replied without politeness. Zhang Jianguo's face turned pale with anger. This instructor had something wrong with his head. Not only was he issuing an impossible mission, but he was also insulting all the teachers and students of Tianlan Magic High. Naturally, for the squad or person that successfully completes the bounty, I will personally gift a reward. This reward is a piece of defensive magic equipment, Zhang Kong continued, raising his voice. As soon as the words, defensive magic equipment, were mentioned, the veteran hunters outside the plaza suddenly got excited. Sheet. Awarding some defensive magic equipment. Boss Zhangkong, don't do it. Why don't you give that opportunity to us? We promise we can accomplish the mission smoothly. Yeah. We need a piece of defensive magic equipment. That life-saving thing should be given to us. Allow us to have a fair competition with these students, Boss Zhangkong. We also want the magic equipment. In an instant, the small hunter squadrons outside the plaza were shouting loudly. Magic equipment. Magic equipment was something connected to your soul. With your thoughts, you could activate it, and it would quickly transform into its genuine form, becoming gear to assist you in battle. They were just like the boot magic equipment the second Baldy tried to sell. Once worn and activated, it would greatly increase your speed. If you met a foe you couldn't defeat, the boot magic equipment could save your life. Additionally, increased speed during combat could greatly enhance a magician's fighting power. Defensive magic equipment was a special type of equipment that could directly morph into a shield or armor. At a crucial moment, it could block a magical beast's attack, making it a life-saving treasure. Although its price wasn't as high as a Stardust magic tool, for hunters who risked their lives daily, it was considered divine equipment. What was more valuable than life? Sheet. That's some good stuff. From what I know, even a common defensive magic tool would cost several thousand yuan. No wonder these hunters are going crazy. And now, this is the reward for these inexperienced students' practicals. The question is, can those students actually obtain it? You're right, bounties are usually really difficult, and even veteran magicians can face life-threatening situations. Mo Fan was still unfamiliar with magic equipment, but when it came to money, he understood perfectly. Even the most common magic equipment was worth thousands of yuan. Sheet. This daddy had never seen that much money in his life before. Chapter end. Please guys like, comment, share, and subscribe.